How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to a brand new story. Today's story is about a crazy babysitter that does something not okay at all. I'm not going to spoil it, but it gets so bad that the police get involved. Let's jump right into it. So we're going to call the subscriber who submitted the story Ryan. And anyways, this all happened a little while ago when Ryan was 12 years old, so he was still in the midst of getting babysitters, but he was definitely kind of like growing up more, and it was towards the tail end of when he still needed babysitters. So anyways, Ryan had actually had a pretty crazy experience with a babysitter before. The babysitter came to the house and Ryan was 7 at the time or whatever. And the babysitter literally hopped into her car and drove to the mall to hang out with her friends and left Ryan at the house alone while she was supposed to be babysitting him, which is super dangerous, right? The reason you're there in the first place is to monitor him. And so let's just say his parents weren't too happy about that afterwards, understandably. And they had been very, very careful with who babysat their child after this point. So the babysitter that Ryan had was actually a family friend's daughter. So at this point, Ryan's parents didn't think anything bad was going to happen. They didn't think possibly she would do anything messed up. Let me just say that that is not the case because she did something super messed up. It got so bad that the police got involved, as I said earlier. Let's just jump right into that day, though. So this all started on what seemed like a normal Friday. Ryan got out of school. His parents let him know as they were driving back, hey, buddy, Dad and I have something to go to tonight. We got a babysitter for you. Do you know the Stevens? And Ryan's like, yeah, I know the Stevens. Oh, well, her daughter's going to babysit you. So Ryan's like, okay, cool, whatever. Let's skip ahead to the time where the babysitter comes. So the babysitter knocks on the door. Ryan walks down with his mom. They introduce each other. Babysitter seems pretty chill. She's 16, 17, 18 at the time. No red flags, right? No immediate red flags that would make you think that something crazy is about to happen. But yeah. So anyways, she seems really nice, super engaged. When you're talking to someone and they're making eye contact and maybe it's a little fake, but they're definitely forcing a lot of energy into the conversation. It's very clear that they're making an effort, and that always feels nice to me, right? So anyways, Ryan's mom's like, all right, buddy, I'll see you. Remember, you can always use the home phone number if you need anything. And by the way, Ryan did not have a cell phone at this point. His parents didn't believe that giving kids that young a cell phone is a good idea, which I kind of stand by. I'm not going to lie. iPad, computer, whatever, that's fine. But I feel like cell phones are just a little bit different. I know I personally didn't get one for a while, but she's like, all right, buddy, the home phone number, just dial my number, whatever, right? And bye, guys, I'll see you. The door closes. And as soon as the door closes, it's like the babysitter turns into an entirely different person. Remember, before this moment, the babysitter was kind of upbeat and cheery and hey, buddy, how's it going? And the second the door closes, her face drops. She kind of has this kind of very blank look on her face, and she immediately whips out her phone. Normally the babysitter, or at least in my experience, babysitters would be as soon as the door closed, okay, what do you want to do tonight? Do you want to watch a movie? What do you want for dinner? Stuff like that. You know what I mean, right? I had a lot of great babysitters as a kid, but this babysitter immediately pulled out her phone and started texting people. Immediately went to texting people long ass paragraphs, right? So she was up to something. She was definitely up to something. And Ryan's like, okay, what do you want? What's the plan for tonight? The babysitter says nothing. Dead silence. She is busy texting. And Ryan's like, because at this point it's really awkward. He's like, bro, what am I supposed to do in this situation? He's like, oh, what should we do for dinner? And she looks up at him and says, oh, no, it's bedtime for you. And he's like, what? Because remember, this is 6 in the afternoon, bro, or 6 at night, I should say. It's 6. Dude, you don't go to bed at 6 unless you're literally straight out of the womb. What's going on right now? And Ryan's like, oh, my bedtime's 8. We still got a little bit of time. And she says, nope, bedtime. He's like, I haven't had dinner yet. And she says, bedtime, I'm sorry. And he's like, she's like, okay, go up. Your room's up there, right? And he's like, yeah, I guess. And she's like, okay, go up there. And Ryan was definitely the rule-following child. I know that when I was a kid, I was a super rule follower. I would cry if I broke a rule. I was that kid. So he kind of really reluctantly, but still went ahead and went upstairs and went into his room. And she followed him up there. And she said, okay, I better not hear a peep or I'm telling your mom. And in his head, he's like, telling my mom that you put me to bed 2 hours early without feeding me? What? Like, you're really going to tell on her and I'm going to get in trouble? But whatever. So she, like, closes the door behind him and walks downstairs. And Ryan is just sitting there so confused. He's like, so we didn't have dinner and I'm put to bed 2 hours early? And she seemed so cool at first, and then she stopped being cool as soon as the door closed, and he was really confused. So Ryan was sitting there for about 30 minutes. He was like, I don't know, he had things to entertain himself inside the room. It was on the second floor, so he could, like, go out and, like, he could leave his room. He just wasn't going to go downstairs and talk to the babysitter anymore because he was like, I'm not messing with this. I'm not messing with her. She's not messing with me. I'm just going to tell my parents when they come tomorrow or come tonight or whatever. Like, I'm just not going to get into any altercation or anything. So basically, he's walking to the bathroom when he overhears someone talking downstairs. Like, he overhears two people talking. And Ryan immediately thinks, oh, well, my parents are back. Like, I guess they came back early. I can tell them that she didn't give me dinner and then they can make me dinner. So Ryan gets up and he walks down the stairs and he freezes. He freezes halfway down the stairs because he hears the voices more clearly. And it is clearly not his parents' voice. It is clearly the voice of some random guy. By the way, if you're not already subscribed, do hit the subscribe button. I make story videos and I'm really trying to hit 1 million subs because the golden play button looks pretty cool. Anyway, so Ryan's just like, he's just like, oh my God, that's not the voice. Those aren't the voices of my parents, man. And he hears the voice be like, yo, what's good, Samantha? Well, we'll just say, like, this girl's name's Samantha. Like, yeah, dude, tonight's gonna be, like, the wildest party ever, bro. Like, everyone in the neighborhood, they're so coming out. It's gonna be crazy. But aren't you, like, babysitting some kid or something? Like, this isn't your house. And she's like, yeah, but it's fine. I told him to go to bed, and he did. Like, he's just like, he's my little minion. He'll do whatever I say. He's in his bed right now. He's just gonna be sitting there throughout the entire night. And, like, he's definitely not going to tell his parents, too. He doesn't have the balls to do that. And Ryan's kind of thinking to himself, what are balls? But he's like, that doesn't matter. Anyways, he's like, what? And Ryan slowly walks back upstairs when he realizes that the babysitter has friends over. And she's planning to have more friends over. And so he's kind of just sitting up there. And remember, Ryan doesn't have a phone. He wasn't given a phone yet. And the only phone is downstairs where the babysitter is, and he knows for a fact that she's not going to be that chill with him just being like, oh, hey, can I use the phone to call my parents to rat you out? Okay, cool. Yeah, she's definitely not going to fall for that. So Ryan's just kind of sitting in his bedroom. When he's looking out his window, he hears tire screeches, and sure enough, this big truck pulls up, and like 6 kids spill out of it. This thing's like a clown car. I don't know about you, but I definitely know that, like, with people I know, like, you have a small car and they're able to fit like 12 people in there. It's like, oh my God, like, how do you even do that? It's like, there's only supposed to be room for 4. How do you get 12 in there? But anyways, people find a way. Yeah, so all these kids spill out of this car. They're all walking in. They're all about the teenage, they're all like 16, 17, 18, 19, whatever. They're about the babysitter's age. They're coming in. They're talking with each other. They're loud. They're rowdy. And that's when the subscriber, Ryan, sees another car pull up and they're like, more kids spill out. And Ryan's starting to realize something. He's starting to realize that not only is the babysitter having some people over, she's not only having some people over, she's having a lot of people over. And that's when Ryan hears music, really loud music turn on. And Ryan fully puts 2 and 2 together. The babysitter is having a full-on party in his house. Real quick, if you made it this far into the video, comment party down below. I'll try and heart a bunch of comments that say party. So if you want to farm some hearts and maybe become top commenter on the channel or one of the top commenters, comment party down below and let's get back to it. So anyways, he's like, okay, this is not good. Like, I know for a fact my parents would not approve of this. Well, obviously, but I know my parents won't approve of this. I know that, like, this could get really out of hand. Like, Ryan might have only been 12, but he was, like, he knew enough that, like, having an unsupervised teenage party, yeah, that never goes well. And if you've heard enough of my stories, you already know that never goes well. So Ryan kind of like, he doesn't go down into the party or whatever, but he sneaks out of his room a little bit to kind of get a sense of how bad it is. And he kind of peeks around the stairs because he has stairs going down or whatever. And all he sees, first of all, he hears a ton of talking, loud music, like things breaking, people shouting. It's bad, right? And he looks around and there's so many people down there. There are so many people down there. And at one point, right, Ryan is kind of looking around the corner, seeing what's good, seeing what's happening, when this guy and this girl, who are like, the guy is leading the girl up by her hand, like holding her hand to like bring her up or whatever. So pretty obviously, it was a bit of a romantic implication. So at this point, Ryan sees these two coming up, and he bolts it back into his room. And they're like going, and he hears these two, the guy and the girl, walking around being like, let's find like a private room somewhere. And Ryan quickly goes to lock his door, and thank God he locks it in time, because right after he locks his door, he hears the door handle like shake a little bit, and the guy's like, oh, this room's locked. But after that, he hears the babysitter yelling, what are you guys doing up here? Like, get back downstairs right now. And the guy's like, oh, my fault. So sorry about that. So basically the babysitter was like, saw those two go up, and she's like, no, I got to control this a little bit. Like, I got to have at least a little respect for the parents that I'm completely disrespecting. And I think she was also like worried that they were going to like run into Ryan, and it was just going to give Ryan more reason to like tell on her or whatever. So yeah, Ryan is sitting in his room. He's locked the door. He's like, I'm just going to wait this out. Like, this is bad enough. I think I'm just going to sit here. I'm going to wait this out. I'm going to see how this goes. And that's when Ryan sees a certain color light come from his window. Blue and red flashing lights. Yeah, the police were called. Apparently, right, the neighbors heard the disturbance. It was really loud. It was rambunctious. Like, it got to a point where they called a noise complaint. They said it was out of control. So sure enough, the cops arrived. And I think the cops arrived as loudly and as notably as possible, so that, they wouldn't have to deal with 1,000 people. Like, the idea is the cops showed up and they were like flashing their lights so that most of the people would leave by the time they got there, because they're not trying to like have to tell everyone to leave. They want to do most of their job just by scaring them out of there. So the cops show up. And Ryan hears the music turn off. He hears people get real quiet. And then because he goes out of his room and he watches as everyone stampedes towards the back of the house, because they're not trying to exit out of the front where they'll get caught. They're all trying to exit out of the back and try and like spill out into the neighborhood or whatever, hop the fence or something like that. So yeah, the cops eventually show up to the door. They're very leisurely walking up because, look, it's a teenager party. It's not that deep, but they got to shut it down. So they're giving everyone ample time to get out of there if they're not trying to get ridden up or something like that. But they get to the door, and they knock on it. And, the babysitter greets them like, hi, hello there, officers. And they're like, are you like the owner of this house? And she's like, no, I'm just here. Me and my little old self. They're like, it was just you the whole time? She's like, yeah, just me. And she's like, oh, and the officer literally looks at her with a face of like, bro, really? He's like, okay, well then explain that. He turns to his like left and points at a car that's like filling up with a bunch of people spilling from back there. They're not even going to try and stop them. They're like, whatever, right? But the babysitter watches as like 8 people pack into one car and they drive off. And she's like, and they're like, okay, it's pretty obvious that there's a party here. This shouldn't have been going on, but you're saying you're not the homeowner? Like, what are you doing in this house? And it's like, as they're saying this, Ryan hears another car pull up. And Ryan at first thinks, oh, some people were a little bit too late to the party, I guess. But no, it was Ryan's parents. Because checking out the time, it's like 9:30, 10, so it's around the time that they would have been coming back anyways. And Ryan's parents get out, and like they walk up to the officer like, what's going on here? Like, sir, like, well, what's the problem? Because they got really concerned because, you come back from a party that you left your kid at a house with a babysitter, and you come back and you see police officers. That's not good. That's really not good. So the police officers are like, oh, are you the owner of this house? And like, they say, yes, we're the owners of the house. What's going on? So yeah, The officer explains what happened. The babysitter is just sitting there, not very happy. Or not very happy. She's mega embarrassed, super like, oh God. And sure enough, Ryan's parents let the babysitter know it. They basically tear her a new one. And they also let her parents know exactly what happened. And yeah, the babysitter got in huge trouble. She was like not allowed to go out with her friends for a month. Her phone was taken away for weeks. Got in huge trouble. And yeah, the parents say, Ryan, we are so sorry that happened. So the parents took Ryan out to ice cream while explaining a lesson of personal responsibility and not doing stuff like that. So it was actually a win for Brian at the end of the day. Click on the video on screen right now. I know you'll enjoy it. Just click it, do it.